Hey, hey, hey. Good afternoon, all. It's Arlene J. Ramsey here again, CEO and founder of Everyone Let's Talk, also your favorite self wealth mentor. I am also CEO and founder of Mediators Medium, and soon will be your favorite civil and family and divorce court mediator. It's raining today, which I don't even know if we needed. Yesterday we had pretty warm weather and it was nice. Um, Rain, trust me, we need the spring weather to just kick off. So today's topic: have you been told that you don't read the room? Do you think you're not good at reading the room, or do you read the room? Interesting take, hey? So listen, I've been told that you don't read the room. Yes, I've been told that more than once. hmm So here's what I've come to learn later on in my life that neurodivergent people who are not people that have antisocial personality disorders, because the antisocial personality and cluster B personality disorders are also neurodivergent people. However, they tend to do exceptional in rooms. As a matter of fact, those are the people who actually make the rules in the rooms. All right, so the neurodivergent people who are on the level 1 autism scale is who this video is for. And anyone else who can see themselves in this video or relate to some information in this video. So, first, let me read this, right? Because there are several neurodiverse conditions. And I would like to read the list off to you before I get started: autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and Tourette's syndrome. Conditions are on a spectrum, as you know, right? Autism affects social interactions, communication, and behavior. And pretty much sometimes have needs for routine and the rest of reading off the rest of the autism effects actually depends on what part of the spectrum you lie on, right? So today I want to talk about those of us that are on like the level 1 or the lower end of autism, right? So neurotypical people, which are those that are in the typical group, aside from those who have personality disorders, they tend to think that I, or people who don't assimilate in a room or in a group the way they do, they tend to think that we don't read the room. So I would like to point some things out. And I had to write it down. Now, here's why I wrote it down, right? I have not been professionally assessed. But when I listen to other people who have been professionally assessed on the level 1 neurodivergent spectrum, I'm sorry, autistic spectrum, I say, wow, that sounds like me. Then there's the thing of stimming, I stim. There's the thing of having sensitivity to light, right? So in my apartment, I have to have soft white light bulbs. Regular light bulbs, I'm squinting, I get a headache. I was the kid that in the summertime, I just had an ugly squint. I just could not take this. My mouth, everything would just, everything, right? I needed shades. I don't do that as an adult now because, I have to be cute and sexy. So I'm always frowning still in sun. Even when I have shades on in the sun, if the sun is a bit bright, you could see me, the frown up here. I still frown because of the sensitivity to light. And that is something that people, autistic people, have sensitivity to. Hmm. The stimming, I do, right? So, again, And because I don't think and speak on things like the mass of my peer group, I understand that I am more neurodiverse than most of the people that are in my peer group. And it's been like that ever since I was a child. I always thought, not always, but at some point I start thinking I am in the twilight zone because I can't seem to understand why I'm here and everybody else seems to be over there with how they're viewing life. And it's almost like they just don't understand. It's always a miss. Now, I can understand them, but there's no understanding from my perspective of where I'm coming from. So, anyway, I wrote some things down. Neurodivergent people who are on the autism spectrum. So, why do they tend to say that we don't read the room, or what agitates neurotypical people about neurodivergent people who are on the level one autistic spectrum? Our authenticity is misunderstood as we think that we're better, or we think that we're better. We hold ourselves on a higher scale. We're disconnected. That's how they see us. That they think that we think like that. Number two, they think that we're aggressive because we speak with such intensity and passion, right? So certain things we stress on certain words, and when we are passionate about things, it comes off in how we express ourselves in our delivery, and that comes off as aggressive to neurotypical people. Number three, they think that we don't respect hierarchy or authority. Now, the reason why they think that we don't respect hierarchy or authority is because the way neurotypical people read the room, they assess the room for who's the person that is the most liked, and who is the person that the majority of people are rallying around, and they assimilate to that dynamic. Whereas neurodivergent people, we don't do that. We go into a room, and I'm going to get into how we assess the room. But when we see people rallying behind a person, and we don't get that that's the person and that's the leader. So we go and pay our respect, let that person know that we see them, we understand, and we respect. But then we, go on to do what it is that we came to do. Whereas neurotypical people seem to be right there in a cluster, rallying around one or two people. And it's usually the person that they all deem to be the most liked individual. Number four, we ask a lot of questions. Neurotypical people can't stand questions. And they think that our questions are questioning their authority or disrespecting their authority, right? So the difference between neurodivergent people who are on the level one spectrum of autism and neurotypical people, neurodivergence, we tend to see things as double and triple entendres, which means that there is more than one meaning. We have more than one ways of seeing and understanding what is being relayed to us or what we see. So we ask questions for better clarity, to ensure that whatever decision we make or however we're speaking, that it's to the exact point that the person is making. So we want to be matter of fact. We don't want to assume. However, they think that we're asking questions because we don't respect their authority or we're challenging them. Now, I'm going to say that oftentimes neurotypical people may think that we are challenging them because they know that they have ulterior motives. Many of them have ulterior motives, or they're manipulating groups of people, right? So when we ask questions, they think that we're trying to get an understanding or trying to get to their manipulation, right? When in essence we're just looking for clarity, but they feel seen when we do that. And so it agitates them, it frets them, and we don't realize that we're doing that. Number six, we miss social cues, right? We misread social cues. It's not that we don't see it, we don't understand it to be the way that they understand social people. Now, something like brains are hardwired going to do things, right? So, self preservation, first and foremost, is the first law of nature. But with self preservation comes built in survival skills that nobody had to teach us. It is just who we are, right? So, with neurotypical people, they've learned this. This is built in that their compass is to seek outward and look for the person that everybody positions to be the leader. So they understand social cues and know how to assimilate based off of that. So when they read the room, they're reading the room for a pecking order because they operate on a hierarchy pecking order system. So when they go into the room, they clearly know that they're not the leader, right? They clearly know that how they situate their leader and their pecking order, it is has to be the person that is the most liked. That's the person with the gift of gab, the person that's cracking the jokes and making everybody laugh. You know, that person, everybody is going to put that prop that person up as the leader. So they clearly understand that when they go into a room, they're going to look for the pecking order and then assimilate themselves on that spectrum. Wherever it is that they belong on the spectrum, that's what they're going to do. With neurodivergent people, we don't do that. We read the room, but we read the room for safety, right? So when I scan a room, I'm saying to myself, is there any danger in this room? Like, is there someone in this room that's a potential dangerous person to me? Is this person a threat to me? What I mean by a threat, I'm talking about a physical threat, a threat on my life. I like, I can't speak for other neurodivergent people, but I can speak for myself. I never consider somebody a threat to my, let's say, my career or anything like that. We competency. So typically, we're the best at what we do. And in our minds, until someone proved themselves to be better than us, you're not. History and experience has proven to us that many people have proven themselves to not be better at than us at what we do, right? So I am not threatened by positioning of career or things like that. So when I talk about a threat, I'm talking about a potential threat to me. And why would I say that? Right? You just have, everybody don't know how to go into social rooms and social environments and behave well. Some people are just bullies and, and negative disruptors that cause problems, right? So I won't stay in an environment where I could pick up on the energy that someone in here is just going to try to create a problem just to create a problem. You understand what I mean? And especially if person has the potential to create a problem in a way where people's lives can be in danger. So that's what I scan the room for. I also scan the room for, is this energetically, is this environment safe for me energetically? Do I feel comfortable in this room? Right. So being an empath, excuse me, I also pick up on energy and I can decipher whether people, this energy is safe or comfortable for me to be in. Right. And so in that, that's what I'm scanning the room for. Right. I've went into rooms where I see these types of things going on where people are in a hierarchy and they're in a pecking order. And I may see a few people in there that I, kind of cool with. And I'll go into that very same room, say hi to everybody, and then, go and talk to the people or engage with the people that have good rapport with. A neurotypical people and the person that's at the top of the food chain in that group because it seems but I can only speak for my assessment as to why they would have a problem with me, right? And my assessment tells me, and since they tell me that I don't read the room or I don't know how to read the room, my assessment tells me that because I don't rally behind them or around them like everybody else do, that is disrespectful to them. Now, for me, I can't understand that, right? Because when I come in a room and I say hi or I speak to a person in that room, and then I go off and I do what I have to do or do what I want to do, I still spoke to them. I still acknowledge them, right? I don't go into the room and not acknowledge them, but I can't understand the problem they would have with me not rallying around them the way other neurotypical people will rally around them, right? And that's what will have them say they don't read the room. And I think neurotypical people operate off of ego, a lot of pride and ego, and wanting people to bow down to them, right? Because that's what I see in these types of environments where it seems as if people are bowing down to one person. But what I also understand with neurotypical group settings is that a lot of them are not competent and they leave a lot of stones turned, not unturned, but turned. So they leave room for a lot of slack. Just as long as there's the person that everybody deemed to be the most liked, that's considered to be the leader, and everybody else is rallying around that person, I think that they have a mindset that they will fill in the gaps as best that they could. And whatever gaps that's there that's not filled in, they don't concern themselves with that gap. Me, as someone that's more neurodivergent, I see that gap and that slack as a threat, right? For me, I have to go in and turn all the stones. I leave no stone unturned because in my mind, an unturned stone can be a potential threat or could be a potential problem. I need to see what's going on here. And in that, make sure or ensure the most competent person for that aspect is on that, right? I don't like leaving slack. And many other neurodivergent people, we're not so fond of leaving. We believe in competency of competent people and ensuring that we delegate where incompetent people need to go. We don't concern ourselves with being at the top of the food chain, a hierarchy, a pecking order. People rally around us like we're God's gift. We don't do that. We clearly move off of competency and problem solving, and then we have fun later, right? So in that, it seems as if we miss social cues, right? Right. So I go over, yeah, I go over that. Uh, 1 second. Right. So here's the other thing. It's so much to this that I wrote things down to ensure that I don't forget anything. So in that, because neurodivergent people address a room in that way, neurotypical people will find that to be disrespectful. But here's the other thing that I've learned as someone that's more neurodivergent. Neurotypical people will expect me to be a follower and assimilate like everybody else in the group just to be their follower. And they will disrespect and disregard the fact that I may be more competent than everybody than everybody out that in the group. And I'm not saying it's necessarily so, but I'm giving an example that I can be more competent than most people in the group. They don't care about competency, right? So that's where neurodivergent people feel disrespected because to us, the person who is the most competent, the most resourceful, that's the person that should be the leader because this is the person that is the most well-rounded, has access or has more information and is more competent. Therefore, should a problem arise, that is typically going to be the problem that will jump in to resolve the issue first or delegate on how this problem should be solved or create a prevention so that the problem doesn't even arise. So that's how neurodivergents think. We think more along the lines, and this is neurodivergence on the level one, like I said, level one scale of autism. We think along the lines of competency and problem solving, right? We also scan for threats, safety threats. If there's an elephant, has to discuss the elephant in the room, threat to us. Neurotypical people will allow that elephant to stay in the room, and they will act like the elephant don't exist. And they will crack jokes, enjoy themselves around the elephant that's in the room, be a problem and create chaos for them in that room. They do not distinguish the elephant out of the room. Neurodivergent people find that to be crazy. To us, we can't understand why would you would allow an elephant to stay in the room and not address it, because that elephant will continue to be a threat to everybody else in the room. So to us, that makes us uneasy. We have to have the discussion, right? The other thing with neurodivergent people is we speak on truths. We are matter of fact. Matter of factly, we speak to truth. Many neurotypical people are manipulative, and so they tend to avoid the truth. Again, this is just per my assessment. So I'm going to tie this all in on why this conversation is important about reading the room, right? Um, they don't operate on truth because, like I said earlier, they are skilled at manipulating people to getting their needs met. So many people don't realize they're being manipulated because they don't know that there are truths and facts that exist that are not being told to them. But neurodivergent people, we go off of, like I said before, competency. In order to be competent, you have to know the truth. You have to be well informed so that we're making the best decision that we can make for the time. So when we hear information, we're asking questions for better clarity and better information. That upsets neurotypical people. And again, they find that to be disrespectful. But they will find that to be disrespectful because, again, when we're asking questions and we're looking for clarity, they're thinking, how do you question the person that's the leader? Who are you to question the leader? And they think of it as you're challenging them. We don't realize that they feel like or think we're challenging them when we're not. Now, here's the other thing. No one has ever discussed these rules. These rules were never taught to anybody or discussed, right? So they have in their head a certain rule that they think you should follow. And then when they see that you're not following the rule, they don't discuss it. So I question, why isn't it discussed? Now we all understand the thing of what's understood doesn't have to be explained. But when you can identify that a person understands where you're coming from, you don't have to explain it. But when it seems as if a person, like they say, aren't getting with the program, or you don't get with the program, or you don't read the room, communicate to find out why you're not reading the room or why you don't get with the program. But so I've had someone tell me, I've heard this several times, you don't read the room. And my response to that person was, I read the room and none of you could beat me. Now, I didn't understand what she meant by that, but because I scan a room for threats, that was my response to her. She didn't have a response for what I had to say. So this goes to show that neurotypical people operate on a covert way, but their certain actions, like their rules are covert, but their actions are blatant. But when I said I read the room and none of you could beat me, none of you are a threat to me, there should have been a response more so of, well, that's not what I meant by you don't read the room, right? So that I can have an understanding. They didn't have a response from what I had to say. And then they will go on to say that I'm stupid, because I don't read, and not just me, other neurodivergent people. Neurotypical people think that neurodivergent people are stupid. But what they don't understand is that our high intelligence is in another frequency and it's on the opposite side of the coin. We don't read the room for the same purpose and reason as neurotypical people read the room. And because we operate off of competency, we see absolutely no reason to kiss the behind of another human being because we know that we can save ourselves. So we have more stoic skill sets. So we don't operate off of a pecking order or a hierarchy. It doesn't make sense to us, right? Another reason why I believe that neurotypical people leave the elephant in the room, because they operate off of hierarchy and pecking order. There has to be a superiority inferiority scale that they also operate off of. And if they're operating on that scale, there has to be others on that scale that's inferior in their mind. And they like the idea of feeling superior to others and having others feel inferior. With neurodivergent people, we don't even we can't begin to think like that or even participate in that type of order. We don't understand it. So we see the social cues, but we ain't picking up on the social cues exactly what you're putting down because our mindset are wired to see life in a different way. So we see a social cue. Now let me tell you what I mean by that. When I was younger, before I fully became rooted in myself and I picked up on social cues, because again, they don't neurotypical people, another thing we need is literal conversation. We literally need conversation. Like neurotypical people speak in a figuratively and speak figuratively. And then when we take it literal, they have a problem with you taking it thinking is why would you say something and not think that I'm going to take it literally? How do I know that it's a figure of speech or if it's figuratively? They don't. So I can't. This is why I say it's really how we're hardwired. Because other neurotypical people understand they're figuratively speaking, then they assimilate accordingly. But with us, we don't. We get confused by that. Now let me go back to what I mean by what I was saying when I was younger. Before I learned myself, when I try to pick up on their social cues and I'm thinking it's something that it's not. So I'm like, well, you mean this? No. You mean so I'm all over the place trying to figure out what this social cue is and trying to fill in the gap for this person and I'm never hitting the mark. And I realize that I'm being pulled around like a yo-yo. So I said to myself, no, I'm a human being. I'm not going to let someone drop social cues on me or nonverbal communication on me that I have to try to figure out. And then I'm never figuring it out. And I'm not figuring it out because I don't think like this person. I need this person to literally tell me what it is that they want. So, what I've learned to do after a while, and it's just coping mechanisms, when I see social cues, I don't take it on. I see it and I understand that it's a social cue, but I'm not going to pick up what you're putting down. If you can't open your mouth and literally tell me what this is, I'm not going to energy trying to figure it out because I'm not a yo-yo for anybody, right? Because in my mind, if we allow people to do that to us, then we will be wasting energy trying to figure people out, trying to figure out what they're trying to communicate to us when they're not verbally opening our mouths. And then that takes me from energy, takes away my energy where from focusing on myself and taking care of my goals. I have goals, I have things that I need to accomplish for myself. I can't afford to expend that kind of energy trying to figure out some social cue that a person is putting down, right? So I'm not picking up what they're putting down. So I learned to deliberately not do it because I don't think like you. You have to literally tell me, right? So that is also a problem in social cues and how we miscommunicate between neurotypical people and neurodivergent people who are on the level 1 autism scale. Now, why I say level 1 is because this level 2 autistic is it's kind of in the middle. I'm going to address that in a minute. But level 3, when you're a person that is level 3, excuse me, you can tell that need assistance. Sometimes they're in a wheelchair. Sometimes they can't walk. Sometimes their motor skills, they can't control their motor skills, right? So they don't stand straight. They swinging from side. Their hands is all over the place. You can tell that an autistic person that is on level 3 is autistic, right? So here's why this is important. The other thing with people, human beings feel threatened by people that they think can compete with them. This is a th- and I- this is the problem with most human beings. So they would consider an autistic person that's on level 3 someone that can't compete with them, because this person actually need help for all of their social needs. They're never going to be in the same environment at the same tier, on the same tier. If you get what I'm saying, right? Now, some of you may say, okay, Arlen, I think that's terrible. It's not terrible. It's the reality to human beings. Now, here's one. I'm going to tie that back to level 1 autistic people. It's the reality of people. Now, people who are level 2, sometimes, if you stay around them long enough, you may realize that something is a little off, where they may be a little challenged to understanding complexity, to the point where there may be rage, or you may see them repeating certain things where it seems like they're not putting thought into what they're repeating or what they're doing. It's just first nature for them to do a thing, but it's not working. So when you watch them long enough and see how they handle life, you can tell that something that they need some assistance in somehow, right? So that even stands out. But what about the people that's level 1? So level 1 autistic people, right? Like Elon Musk says that he's autistic, right? Um, what's her name? Courtney, I forgot her name. The rock star is autistic. She's a bit aggressive in her communication. I think Bill Gates said that he's autistic, right? And now we can have more than one diagnosis, right? So an autistic person can also be narcissistic, right? Can also have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. But I just want to speak to the autism part about it, as in to say that there's many people that are level 1 autistic people that don't need any help for their social needs. They don't have any disorder or condition that requires social help. What it actually means is that our brains are hardwired differently. We think on the opposite side of the coin. What I mean by here's an example. There's 50 shades of gray. Neurotypical people see things in polarity. It's either hot or cold. But in nature, we know that it's not hot or cold. It's scorching hot, right? It is semi-hot, it's warm, and then it gets cool, cold, frigid cold. You understand? There's so many different degrees between hot and cold, and then there are extremes on both sides of hot and cold. That's how neurodivergent people on the level 1 autistic scale should be viewed. We are not either this or that. We think on the opposite, right? So with neurotypical people, their understanding is either this or that. And they cannot grasp that people who do not think like them and move the way they do socially doesn't have anything wrong with them. Like, they understand if you don't move the way they do and think like them socially, you need help. Something's wrong with you, right? As I just mentioned with the other level 3 of autism. And what about Tourette's syndrome? You can tell when someone have Tourette's syndrome, especially when they're on the extreme end of the spectrum. These are people that are constantly ticking and moving their head and making sounds, and they're trying to talk and they can't stop ticking. You understand that these people also need aid, they need help. So neurotypical people again don't look at people who need help as a threat or as competition. So they're viewed to see people as competition for their survival, and they operate off of a hierarchy and pecking order system. And when you don't think like them, something has to be wrong with you, and they need to be clear and see that something's wrong with you. But what about those of us who are on level one autism where nothing's wrong with us, but we just have a different type of intelligence? It infuriates them because they clearly can tell nothing's wrong with us. They clearly can see how we operate. They clearly can see our competency, but they cannot understand why and how we think and do things the way they do. So that infuriates them because they clearly know that we're competition, but they don't see any ways of how they can manipulate us into their pecking order system. And so that's where level one autistic people. But I truly believe that if we start to have more and more of these conversations, and we will get better understanding of saying that neurodivergent people are stupid and we don't know how to read the room is ridiculous. We read the room. It's for a different purpose and reason than the neurotypical people read the room. But what's also important with this is neurodivergent people, a lot of us don't, you can't keep jobs. They say you don't read the room, you get fired from the job, and it is not because of our competency, because we're usually superstars on the job. But because neurotypical people operate on a hierarchy and pecking order system, they always need to feel superior to people. And neurodivergent people, we don't give people that. You're not superior to us. You're not superior to me. And if I and we respect you, but if I respect you as superior or a leader over me, best believe that you're more competent than me. Now I can brag on your competence, what you know how to do, how you do things. You never miss. You're a hitter. You never miss. You leave no stone unturned. You address the elephant in the room. So you clear out the BS and where we can just work with no interruptions. Then you deserve to be the leader. But neurotypical people, like I said again, they don't care about competence. Look at how they do things. Oftentimes you can go into their systems and see where there's a lot of slack, where there's a lot of mishap, where there's a lot of chaos and things are just all over the place. And it's okay with them. It's okay. They're like, oh yeah, leave that. It's okay. And then every now and then they use those very same things that they allow to be like that as a reason to complain, as a reason to project onto other people, and as a reason to make other people miserable. So I truly believe their reason also for not addressing these things, aside from them not seeing it as things to address, right? Because now let's look at this. Sometimes they don't see the elephant in the room because they don't ask questions. Because they're hardwired to manipulate and survive off of hierarchy, their understanding is once they find where they belong in the pecking order, it's like all the ducks. Once the mother duck is in the front, I'm quite sure the baby ducks know where they belong on the pecking order on the duck line, right? So once mama gets in the front and all the ducks assimilate, the ducks are going to move when the mama ducks start moving. Everybody, that train is just going to move. And that's how they operate. They move. Right now with neurodivergent people, I'm not saying that we don't move, but let me give you this for an example. With neurotypical people, I'm going to say that they're more like a pride of lions, like a group of lions. Lions cannot survive on their own. Every now and then in nature, you'll see a lion on her own, And you know that she had to build those skill sets to survive on her own, right? It is not a natural thing for a lion to be on their own. They need the pride. That's neurotypical people. Neurodivergent people, if you see a group of neurodivergent people, we're like a group of leopards or jaguars, right? We're all sovereign beings in a group, right? So there's not one leader. There's no one leader. All of us are leaders in what we do, but we can form together and create a group and operate as a group for whatever cause. But there is no pecking order hierarchy. We don't have that type of system. We respect all of us equally. There's no hierarchy, and that again is because we operate off of competency. So if we're forming a group, everybody in the group is extremely competent at what they do, right? And we leave no stone unturned. And so with that, we can't understand um, the neurotypical. And because neurotypical people don't see things the way we see things, some of the things that we see that seems to be an elephant in the room, they don't see it because they're not hardwired to see life the way we see life, right? Their survival is external. They look for external validation and external leadership. Neurodivergent people, we our inner compass leadership. We start saying to ourselves, you better get it together. I have to be. If I let myself down, it's a problem, right? Before I see myself as a leader, I have to be competent and resourceful, or else I'm not a leader. I have to follow a leader if I'm participating in a group. That's our understanding. First and foremost, you who's the most educated or the most resourceful and the most competent? Who is this person who can solve the problem? Well, I've gone into groups with neurotypical people, and a problem arise. They got the gift of gab, and they're doing all the talking and laughing and yapping. And the moment a problem arises, they don't jump in to solve the problem. They sit back and they watch. Other people will step up to solve the problem. And typically I'm one of those people that'll step up to solve the problem while they sit back and watch. They don't even have it in them. See, the way I do things is I know that, problems can arise. So I'm in my head asking, well, if this problem arises, if that problem arises, how will this problem get solved? How will I solve it? So in advance, I'm already thinking about if problems arise and how will I solve it. So when or if a problem arises, I spring into action. I don't have to wait. Many of them don't. They don't spring into action. Someone else will be the one stepping up to solve the problem. And so that also makes the difference between, neurotypical people versus those that are neurodivergent. We just see things differently. But we need to broaden this conversation so they understand that we do see the room. We do read the room, not for the same reason that they read the room, right? They really need to get over this notion that we're stupid, we're slow, and all these things that they think of neurodivergent people. We are not what they think we are, right? And it behooves them, but because they don't ask questions, they don't know because they never ask. Well, hey, how come you don't? This, that, and the third. Well, you see everybody else doing this, that. Why you don't? Curiosity. They don't have curiosity because if they did, they probably would have known by now why we don't react and act the same way they do in rooms, right? What else did I wanted to say in regards to that? I think I went over everything I wanted to go. No. This is what I wanted to say as well. So those of you who are neurodivergent on the level one autistic scale, right? The other thing is this: we are authentic, right? So our authenticity is our originality, and it also speaks to our individuality. With neurotypical people, When they assimilate, I don't know if it's a spiritual thing, but there's no originality or individuality with them. When they assimilate into the group, it's like they're all the same. Although they have different shapes, colors, sizes, wearing different, color clothes and outfits and things of that nature. I'm talking about energetically and the way they do things. It's like they're the same. Because one of the things I challenged, I said, well, listen, I know how to assimilate in a group. I follow the rules in a group. What we're cycling, whatever the case may be. I'm doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and I still can't understand why the focus is on me. Well, being that I am neurodiverse, I have originality, authenticity, and individuality. So I'm in a group. Everybody else seems to be the same, but then there's me. That this person, and I'm like this. So if you look at the group, you can still look at me and tell that I'm different. And it doesn't matter that I'm respecting the rules and following what the group is doing. If we're cycling, if we're walking, if we're hiking, it doesn't matter. I'm doing the same thing. However, I still appear to be original, or to be, let's just say, authentic. So my individuality stands out. Neurotypical people tend to have a problem with that. And not only do they have a problem with that, they tend to want to create, what do you call that? Social aggression, in hopes that you can get bullied out of your originality and your individuality. And the neurodivergent person doesn't realize that that's the kind of game that is being played on us, because we don't realize that we're sticking out like a sore thumb. Even though we're doing what everybody else is doing, we still stick out like a sore thumb. We don't realize that. But because they are more aligned, they understand, right? They don't have to verbally say, we're going to attack this person and try to bully them out of their individuality. So, again, one of the things I question, why is it such a concern for neurotypical people to distinguish individuality? What's wrong with that? Why do neurotypical people need to distinguish authenticity? Hmm, great questions. But anyway, in that tends to tick us off, tick the neurodivergent person off, where that's going to fret. Trying to tell me be someone else that I'm not, trying to bully me. Mm-mm. And of course, because I study behavioral patterns and I recognize patterns, I can come back here to say that the social aggression that they use is in attempts to bully you out of your authenticity and out of your individuality. But here's the thing, I don't understand what makes them think that a human being can be bullied out of their individuality. Just the thought that they think that that's something that can be accomplished is something that we also should question, and it needs to be studied. It needs to be studied on how that they can change someone else's way of doing things, how somebody thinks, right? Because we ought to know that what we do, what we say and do, stems from how we think. It's all in the mind first. And our mind works we think a certain thing and speak a certain things because our mind works a certain way, right? And so they don't have the layered intelligence to say to themselves, you can't change this person. You can't change, because how a person's mind is wired is how it's wired. You can't change how a person does things because it's how their mind is. right? And so, is that narcissistic? Is that psychopathic for people to think that way, right? But anyway, a lot of neurodivergent people end up homeless because they can't keep jobs, because they don't realize that they are not following rules that were never spoken and never taught. And because they're not hardwired to read a room the way neurotypical people read a room and assimilate, they miss the mark. And it doesn't matter if you are a respectful person, a kind person, a person that does your job, a person that's a superstar on your job, a person that, brings money to the job, like you're not a liability. It doesn't matter about that. It doesn't. Because you are far off of the likability scale, and you're not on the likability scale because you do not rally around the person that is considered to be the leader and spend your energy making them feel like they're your messiah, because that's what it looks like to me with neurotypical people. They act like this person is their messiah, and it's like, we can't understand why is that needed. You're not a god, you're not our god. Like, that's how we think. I don't understand why it's needed to put so much energy into a person who don't put food in my mouth, who don't pay my bills. And is it just because for the sole purpose of not being socially bullied, not losing your job? Things that make you go, hmm. But let's get this conversation going. When you guys get a minute and you go over this video, drop your comments. Let's get this conversation going. I think it's time for broader and a more depth understanding of people, right? But just saying that a person don't read the room is wrong. It's really, how does the person read the room? The person doesn't read the room like you read the room. That's really what this is about, right? All right. Peace.